Grab the wheel. I'm not going in the ditch tonight. Oh yeah, hello, Captain. Welcome everybody to another edition. Welcome on a Thursday evening there. Some better play on the phone, ladies and gentlemen, if you're already going to talk that way. But anyway, hello everybody. Welcome, Jesse. Nice to have you there. And let's see here. Did we miss anybody? Everybody sliding in. Roger Blair. Nice to have you there. Yeah, tow truck on standby. That's what I'm saying. And got Pamela Bigfoot. And yes, that's what I'm saying. Hello there. And Liana. I'm glad you're back, Liana. I'm glad it didn't run you away the other night. And Nader Decker, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Enjoy the journey. Welcome. All right. So, Mr. Decker, what we got cooking tonight?
All right. Well, first, it sounds like there's a story I'm not aware of. People talking about tow trucks and steering wheels here, Grizz.
Oh, man. All right. So, I'll tell you while we got our guests backstage.
Okay.
So what happened is that we played this game when I was on the police force.
Mm-hmm.
We had this vagrant that we kept arresting for panhandling.
Okay.
And my lieutenant called me up when I was on county, and he's like, go get him, and I want you to take him down to such and such police station and drop them off on their front porch. I'm like, really, Lieutenant? You're going to make me? He's like, Chris, do it. So I go down there where he's standing at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I pull up, and he was like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, turn around. And I pat him down, put handcuffs on him. He goes, you're taking me to jail. And I'm like, oh, no, we're not going to jail tonight, brother. I was like, we're taking you somewhere. So I get him in the car. I hit the interstate. I ain't gonna tell you how fast I was going. His eyes is like getting big because we're leaving the county, and he's like, Kentucky, what? He goes, you're getting off. He goes, oh my God, you're gonna kill me. Oh God, oh don't, please don't kill me. Oh, I won't do it again, please. And he's begging for his life, and I am laughing so hard. I put my cruiser in the ditch, and I am crying hysterically because this guy has played with me. Officer, I won't do it no more. I promise I'll be the county. I won't tell you. And I'm laughing, you know. So I pull up to the police station, and you know, I didn't realize it was shift change. So all my buddies are standing outside in the parking lot. You know, and I pull up in my cruiser and I get him out, throw his bags out, unhandcuff him, and I take off with my lights and siren on. And I see the guy crawling, help me, he's gonna kill me. Help me. And I just drive off. So ever since then, we go in the ditch.
Nice.
Go off topic and they kind of get a little ornery. Yes. That's the short version. But
that works.
Yeah, I mean, thank God there wasn't a fire hydrant because I would have totaled the car out. I mean, he really thought he was going to die that night.
Oh, man. So, you're horrible. That's awesome.
I mean, we used to play jokes on each other on other departments.
Sure.
Because where I worked, our JD was the whole state. I can write you a ticket in any county. I can arrest you in any county or any city. It's not like it is in Kentucky. You know, if you were in Jefferson County, that's it. Or city of Louisville, that's it. No, not where I came from. So
anyway.
So that's why they say we have a tow truck or AAA on standby. So what we got tonight?
All right, well, tonight we got a very good friend of mine. This gentleman is responsible for getting me going and kind of how I was going. His radio show was one of the first shows I was ever on as a Bigfoot guy. And his event was the very first build event I ever spoke at. Really proud to call this guy a friend. We've worked a lot together. We do a lot of things. We consult with each other. We're going to bring on Mr. Daniel Benoit tonight and talk with Daniel.
Daniel, come on down. Welcome. How
Here
you
he
doing?
Thank
is.
you.
What do you
Thank
say,
you.
stranger?
Justin talking those kind words is going to make me cry over here.
Yeah,
Oh, I
right,
don't know
right.
about that.
So
Thank
I
you.
was showing you all those video or pictures
Hmm.
backstage of the trail cam pictures. And I didn't get to finish to hearing what your all's analysis were. I mean, Mr. Daniel, what are your thoughts on those?
Well, the first one, the only thought that was really coming to my mind, because I know I've had a lot of birds and stuff on my right up close on my cameras in the past.
Right.
I almost want to say I feel like it could have been a possible, like, a dove, because their feathers are so short and fine looking. It looked like it was part of the chest and the neck of the dove, and then the side profile um, on that one,
And
the daytime photo. I
this is
mean,
where I had a 16 terabyte hard drive that got corrupted because I had other pictures of animals I wanted to show
Hmm.
okay,
that to show how good these cameras are and how good it took clear photographs, right?
right,
And birds and squirrels and wildlife, and I was so I can actually debunk things
Hmm.
and show the audience is like this is what I captured and this is how I compared, what I could prove and not, and disprove. And when I first saw that, because I mean, I went through most cameras took in between 270 to 4 to 500 pictures or more, because trail cameras don't take that much room taking up pictures. And a lot of my trail cameras took pictures and videos. So when you take 26 trail cams, I had 3 to 4,000 plus pictures, not counting all the videos.
Hmm.
And so I had a lot of wildlife, right? Different species of deer, bucks with velvet on the antlers, bucks rubbing their antlers against the trees, rutting and stuff, chasing the does. Uh, uh, baby deer. I mean, you name it, turkeys. But like I was saying behind in the green room, where I got this particular footage, pictures, whatever it may be, is there was no wildlife. There was no deer, no squirrels, no raccoons, no turkey, no birds, nothing. I mean, I was sitting there looking at videos and I'm like, what's triggering this video at night? And I would have to zoom in on my touchscreen and I'm like, damn, that's a field mouse running up a damn tree log. And that's how good 30 feet away it was picking up motion, right? So and it was very interesting 'cause I wanted people to see how well this got, and plus how well it took pictures of me going up and opening up the camera and turning them off before I took them off. So I'm open to anything, right? Like I said, we don't have bears. I'm in northern Kentucky or outside Louisville, so it's not a bear. So I have no idea, but I just wanted to run by both of you guys, especially with y'all's experiences looking at stuff and being out boots on the ground, and see what your all's thoughts were.
yeah. Like I said, the first picture you showed us, I mean, that's what made me think of, you know, a
Yeah,
bird of some sort.
I agreed with that. The coloration and then the smoothness of it looked like some really fine feathering on it.
Right. That's what made
All
me think
right.
of a dove. I mean, a lot of birds will look like that, but more the coloration reminded me of a dove. But
Yep.
Well,
And
hey,
the
we'll run
second
with
one,
that.
the second one, the texture of the hair on it kind of reminded me of coon hair and coon fur.
Mhm.
But obviously, with no definition and no marks or anything, we can't really say anything on it,
Right.
But that's what the fur kind of reminded me of was the raccoon fur, like on the back of a coon or something. But
But
that's just
unfortunately, I have inconclusive photos, right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
and
Yep.
and and it sucks to have that. But
Hmm.
I got two cameras that I failed to get. And what was weird is when I went to retrieve these cameras, I have one of these real fancy GPSs, right? And it
Yep.
malfunctioned to get the cameras. And my daughter was like going ape nuts, like, Dad, it's not right. You know, you need to send it back. And I wanted to tell her, like, honey, I had it like for a year and a half. There ain't nothing wrong with it. And she got her
Right.
cell phone out to get a compass out to prove me wrong. And it was like, Dad, look at this. It's going in circles. And I'm like, that's not something ain't right. Because when we put the cameras out, I did coordinates on each camera. So I knew exactly where to go to get these cameras, because these cameras, and I'm telling you, if you all never put cameras out before, you would put 2 or 3 cameras out within 30, 40, 50 yards of each other, whatnot, and turn around and look, and you cannot even see them on the trees, which
Right.
tree you put them on. So I had to use coordinates, right, to plot each camera. But it was interesting to see the electronics to fail in my police camera that I use for evidence. When I was on the force, when I was out there putting the cameras up, I never had problems with it, and it malfunctioned, and my SD card got zapped, and I lost 70% of my photographs. And we had a picture on there, which it turned the date from 2023 to 2009, and it turned the time to whatever. And there was a picture. I had a 30 by 700 lens on it. I couldn't tell you the distance, and I couldn't tell you where I took the photograph, but it looked like something was staring at me in the woods. But without the date and timestamp, I cannot go back and debunk that and look at it and measure and see if it was tree roots, a ball of tree
Right.
roots, right? So once again, inconclusive.
Yep.
So it's like, I don't know where I took that photograph, because it was a long shot and I don't know the distance. I don't know where at in the woods, what part of the woods. So I'm at a loss again.
Yeah, that would be mind-boggling too to deal with that. It's kind of like I don't know, kind of like some kind of weird warp, or I don't know what to think of.
I don't know, but I'll be interested to see the other 2 cameras. But the question that I have that really throws me off my mind game, right, gentlemen, is that out of all the cameras, the abundance of wildlife on each camera, 300 pictures plus, all the deer, all the wildlife, but in this particular set of woods, nothing. And that's what was really weird. And it's like nothing, like 3 or 4. You saw the pictures. The only reason why it took pictures is because the shading and the leaves, it was
Right.
blowing, and it was like no wildlife. And it was the same thing on the other cameras, nothing. It didn't take like 3 or 4 pictures, that was it. In the other cameras, it was wildlife galore. It's like they stayed away from that area. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean that is a known phenomenon in dead spots in the woods. I mean that does happen. You talk to any long-term hunter or something, and then there's no explanation for it, but you do get so-called dead spots where you aren't going to find any wildlife in the area at all. I'd be curious to see what the geological structure is right in those woods and in the area where you were having the problem with your GPS not working and the compass not doing it right and stuff. I'm curious because certain deposits of minerals can cause, short-term effects like that within the magnetic system.
Agree, right? But it didn't do it the first time when I went out and placed the cameras, because I used it to put up all the cameras.
Right. Okay.
It was only when I went to retrieve them.
Only when you went to retrieve it.
Are you aware of, was there any kind of storm or bad weathers prior to going back out there?
No, it was a clear sunny day, nice weather. Yeah, shorts and t-shirt out in the woods. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's very bizarre.
It is. And once again, I wish I had that $1 million picture to say this is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. But
right.
It's whatever y'all want to imagine it could be. I don't know, and I just want to get your all's opinion on it. So, especially boots on the ground and your all's experiences with dealing with stuff like this. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that'd be my guess on them.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
can't really.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say
No,
I
go.
can't say that I've ever had anything strange happen with my cameras. As much as I use them in the woods, I never really had anything bizarre. That I mean, maybe a couple minor strange things because especially I set mine on video mode a lot. So I mean, something like if it wasn't a moving limb from the breeze, something. I mean, I've had times where my camera's gone off before, and not noticing any kind of movement from the trees or limbs. But sometimes you'd be surprised. Sometimes a little bug might sense us. Depends on how your sensitivity set it.
That
If
is
you have a
correct.
high sensitivity camera, yeah, sometimes a bug flying by the sensor might spark it off. But which I've captured. Yeah, you can see in the on the camera. I have had bugs that look like bright little light bulbs. But you can see their wings and stuff. But
Right.
so
Right.
All right, Daniel. So for our audience that doesn't know who you are and what you get up to, why don't you give us a little background and bio on what you do right now, and then what kind of got you started in the big search?
hello, I'm Johnny Cash. No, well, yeah, as you know, my name is Daniel Benoit. I've been involved with Bigfoot research for approximately 13 years now. 13 years is really not a long time to be in this, but I feel like I've come a long ways in this short time. And I'll tell you, like many other people, you guys are familiar with Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, and that amazing debatable film, the Roger Patterson Bob Gimlin film of Patty back in 1967. That was a big part of what got me really into this, among a few other things. But that film really opened something up for me. It was amazing. It was a big curiosity that kind of hit me. And then as I got into it, that there was a passion that kind of developed out of it that got me into wanting to look for more evidence, to look for myself. And I'm going to tell you, I was actually blown away when I got on social media. When I was new to social media, I started to eventually discover like several other people that were involved with this. And I was seeing a lot of different theories when I first stepped foot into this. And even till today, I'm one of those people. I don't jump on board with anything. I have to look into it. I have to try to find some or conduct some kind of research that might give me some leverage on this piece of information. However, I don't dismiss a lot of these theories. I'll consider them to with a possibility. But for me in this field, it's important for me personally to stay grounded. And when I say grounded, I have to be careful with jumping onto these theories. I have no problem speaking about them, discussing them, but I need to have evidence. I need to have something that will give me leverage to lean towards them or look into that direction. I guess to clarify more of what I'm trying to say is I have always been the flesh and blood type researcher. And I've always been very objective on a lot of things, even my own findings. I've come across a lot of interesting things over the years, both in and out of the field. But yeah, like I said, I've been involved with this for 13 years, and I started off solo. I was somebody that was by himself for a good part of the first couple of years. Then I started meeting other people and started to associate with other people. I was learning from other people, some basic knowledge here and there. And then I wanted to expand on the research. I wanted to step foot, I wanted to get, start my own little community, and that's kind of where the ECBRO came about, the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. A lot of my research actually took place, even though I'm based out of Virginia, a lot of my research took place up in Pennsylvania. I'm actually up here right now. So yeah, Pennsylvania has been a big part of my research. Of course, Virginia for most of the 13 years. I've visited, done some minor scouting in South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia. Done a good deal of research in West Virginia. And then even as far as up as around Rhode Island. But so, a lot of my research is based out of Virginia and the rest of the East Coast. And over the years, I've actually met and collaborated with many people and fellow researchers. Just met up with many eyewitnesses. I've interviewed and investigated a lot of reports over the years. And I've gathered a lot of notes and information. A lot of the information I gather from Virginia, from reports, I find that there's a lot of similarities, a lot of information that we can collaborate and compare and with other reports. So that's a big part of what I've been doing. Apart from research, I am as you mentioned earlier, I am an annual Virginia Bigfoot Conference host. Where I host that every June right here in Virginia. Information about that can be found on our event. Our Facebook page on Facebook, the ECBRO Annual Virginia Bigfoot Conference. I do have a website for that as well. It's the VABigfootCon.com. A little bit more about me. My biggest thing on this whole topic with Bigfoot in general is spreading awareness. Spreading awareness about who I am and what I do, as well as sharing my research and my view on the topic. When I go to various events to speak at them, I'm very careful on how I conduct my presentation. My biggest thing is to let everybody know right from the get-go, I'm not here to convince you. I just want to present my view. And one of the things I've been doing lately in my presentation is called entertaining the thought. It's one thing I point out throughout my presentation. And with entertaining the thought of a possibility, of one of the many theories that's out there. I'm kind of putting myself in a doing my own little series here. The more I'm able to get out there and do these presentations, the more I'll start sharing with stuff. There's a couple different possibilities because one of the things I like to do is ask the audience. I don't always ask, but when it pops up on my presentation slide, I do like to get familiar with other people's thoughts and theories on what they think Bigfoot might be. Then I throw out a few examples. For example, could he be an alien? Is he a Neanderthal? Is he an ape? Or do you think he's a human hybrid? Those are a few that I go with. Then I do get into other possibilities where I might have my view on where he might come from. But not to get really into that, not to get too drawn into that. I keep things basic. I try to keep things basic because I just want people to consider that possibility without dismissing it. And with that being said, everybody else wants their theories put out there without it being dismissed. So I'm just doing the same thing with my theories. So, just something to consider, nothing to, you don't want to rule it out. That's my point behind a lot of it. So, but with a lot of my comparisons with what I do present, I do point out some facts, and let me say what those facts are. My facts mainly pertain and they're referring to our known species of wildlife, what they're capable of. Let me give you more example, more specifically, primates, non-human primates. We're talking about gorillas, chimpanzees, baboons, orangutans. I like to present their behaviors. I like to present their characteristics. Everything that they're responsible for and what they're known for doing, even their diets. Look at what they do in their behavior. Look at what they have been observed doing. Let's look at what we observe here in our own backyard when we do Bigfoot research. There's a lot of fingers being pointed with Bigfoot getting credit for a lot of this stuff, although we've never witnessed Bigfoot doing it. But we can consider that possibility because look, there's a known species of primates that's known for doing this. So my question to everybody is, can Bigfoot be a type of primate? You know, so if somebody was to come out and ask me, well, what do you think Bigfoot is? Well, I do present that with what I just said, but I try not so much to put that out there too much, because I want people to consider what I'm trying to present to them. I do believe Bigfoot is some type of unknown, unclassified primate of his own kind. And I'm careful of that, because I'm not making him equal to a chimpanzee. I'm not making him equal to a gorilla, although there is some similarities with behaviors. I do think Bigfoot is something entirely different, but yet there is some similar traits and characteristics. I don't know if any of that makes sense. I know I ramble sometimes when I'm talking.
It does.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's something I'm working on. You know, I have a few research guide books I put out there, and a lot of it is based off of my research. I do have a field guide I put out there. And the field guide is basically just to keep the average Joe out there a little bit more objective when he finds stuff, you know. You know, it's basic information, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I mean, I'm going to continue sharing my research. If I learn something new, if I go into a different direction, I mean, I have no problem doing that. I just feel that it's important to stick on, I guess you could say, one topic before it branches out too far into all these other fields, if that makes any sense. So I just feel it's important to study there, because I think with a lot of the basics, are overlooked and neglected, because there's a lot that people don't understand or can't explain. So they have to sway over this way and consider all these other possibilities. And I question those other possibilities. I said, do we have any evidence of that? Has it been witnessed before? Is there enough to lean towards that? You know, when we have enough to lean towards what's more critical when it comes to trying to keep ourselves planted, grounded, if that makes any sense. You know? Yeah.
Does your field guide cover any about collecting evidence? Brian Barber wants to know.
As far as collecting evidence, it's basic. It does give you awareness to be careful of what you consider evidence. You know, for example, foot tracks. That's one of the illustrations in my field guide that I do point out, because I felt that was one of the things that are important to observe. Because I will be one of the first to admit that when it comes to bear tracks, I personally myself have been fooled by bear tracks, so they can be very deceiving. Over the years, I've seen so many different tracks that actually been picked. Photos have been taken of these tracks, and people share them thinking they got Bigfoot, and some of them are very obvious double-step bear tracks. And I actually share that and show that how I take two different bear tracks, and then I actually show an illustration where I actually merge those two front and rear together, how it looks like a humanoid foot track. So bear tracks, when it comes to wildlife, I always try to get people to learn about your wildlife. I mean, I'm 43 years old. Sometimes there's still things that, you know, can be deceiving. So it's very important to observe and be objective, you know, when it comes to observing what you find. One thing I like to state, and I say this on my social media platforms, my websites, is learn and know what is known before seeking the unknown. And I say that because it's important to be objective. Do not neglect what our wildlife is known for doing. Only because there's so many fingers being pointed, and with Bigfoot getting credit for something that we find in the woods, but we're neglecting what else is responsible for doing the same thing. You know, I mean, example, a simple tree break. Just because you find a tree break doesn't mean Bigfoot did it. I mean, we got weather, we got bears that like to play in damaged trees, you know, and et cetera, you know. one of the last times about a few weeks ago when I was out camping, one of the first nights there at camp, it was still daylight. It was probably about 3 o'clock. Just a few of us were sitting around the fire just talking. And all of a sudden we hear this loud crack. And then we hear it right behind us. We look over down behind the creek. All of a sudden this tree falls over. I was like, I was excited for a moment, but as soon as I heard the crack, I instantly got up. I looked over. There was nothing there. All you see is a tree falling. It made me wonder, it's like, okay, there was nothing there. What made that tree fall? One thing I come to realize after I got my calm down and without jumping to conclusions, there's a lot of dead standing trees. A lot of trees have a lot of rot. Some of them are just barely standing. There was no wind that made that tree fall. That tree was just ready to fall. Sometimes that happens and we don't realize it. We want to think and contribute other out of these world possibilities, Was there a cloaking Bigfoot? Although I don't believe in cloaking to a certain extent. I've been asked that numerous times, but was there something invisible there I was not looking at? Hey, if there is, I had no proof of that because all I saw was a tree fall by itself, we all witnessed that there, but so yeah, I'm sorry if I got a little off course related to that question, but
No, that makes sense. And I think that's a good perspective to do, because a lot of people, whether it's in the cryptid world or the paranormal, that's the first thing they do is jump to conclusions, right? Because I can take that black and white photo and go, that's a dog man. And try to convince everybody, right? Which I have no idea what that is. And I can't prove it one way or another because I don't have another camera showing what that is, So, you always want to be, not that one person that always wanted to jump to conclusions, because Justin says before, there's Cub Scouts or Girl Scouts in the area making these little teepee things, right? And oh my God, that says what? It's a birthing hut, and it's like, no. And I've seen turkey hunters make those before out in the woods. So, but yeah, I totally agree with you.
Well, me and my friends as kids would go out into the woods and build forts and structures and ground lines and debris huts, and we just build forts and play. That was just part of our play. It's what we did. We'd be off in the middle of a patch of woods somewhere, probably further than we should have been out in the woods, but we didn't care. We were having fun, that's a big part of it.
We used to do the same thing, tell people.
Yeah, that's what I think. Any kid that grew up in the woods did that. So it was like what I tell people when they start talking about structures and stuff. I go, by looking at a structure, all you really know is that those trees are leaned up against each other. That's literally the extent of your knowledge. Everything else is speculation. So if you're going to tell me that you think a Bigfoot did that, then I need to know what your evidence is that a Bigfoot did that.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of things people don't take into account. People don't take into account that the very tops of trees break and fall down. So you hear all these things about, well, this branch here didn't have roots and it was upside down. And the first thing I do is look up, right? Because I've seen time and time again, and I've actually witnessed the tops of the trees breaking off and falling in a little bit of wind. That's natural. Right. And so when anybody wants to come up and say a Bigfoot made this, I go, what's your evidence it was from a Bigfoot? And one of the things a lot of people say is, well, no person comes out here. And I look at them, I go, you're out there. Well, exactly. Well, you're there. Are you telling me you're the only person that's ever been out to that spot in the history of the world? And then it's logical process and thinking like that is really, I don't want to say missing in the field, but lacking in our field. I think so many people are so excited about the topic that they go out and they see Bigfoot and everything.
Right. I agree with you 100% because, that goes to show where I always tell people, this is what I tell people, because I get asked, I have been asked numerous times in the past, I want to start looking for Bigfoot. What should I do? Well, I start off with a couple simple things. I said, one, you want to pick your area, your choice of woods, and kind of scout the area, get to know the area, the terrain, get familiar with the wildlife. But when you go out there in those woods, get Bigfoot off the brain and forget completely about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Because even now, as long as I've been doing this, I know it's easier said than done, because you do get excited. You're in the field, you're in your environment, you're in a place where you're familiar with everything, but the simplest things can really get you turned on when it comes to Bigfoot. I know this. So, like I said, it's easier said than done. But yeah, there's a lot of occurrences and phenomenons that take place out in nature that we don't get to witness. One thing you were talking about, like teepee structures for it. Now, yeah, Dad taught me and my brother how to throw sticks together and dead little trees and make a teepee. We used to build teepees as a kid, and taller ones too. But the other thing is too, when they do fascinate me. I have come across a lot of teepee type structures in the woods, and it is fascinating. I take pictures. I document a lot of these, regardless. Even though I wasn't there to witness what made it, I'll document it, share it, on social media, let people observe what I find. But there's another thing too. Weather plays a key role in a lot of these structures.
Yeah.
We may not witness it, but people don't realize when these trees fall and collide, they end up catching together, and they might just happen to get caught in the one same tree together. Now, one thing I will say this, and I know the storm didn't do this, something or somebody had done this, but I have found a series of trees branched together up into a standing tree. But one of those trees that were wedged in the fork of that one standing tree, the root balls were up in the air. So how did that root ball get up there? Something or somebody had to do that. So, I mean, in my opinion, anyway, the way I looked at that, somebody or something with opposable thumbs and something that was able to grip and hold and place it there, So yeah, there is some things that I consider that, okay, something took some time to do this.
Sure.
One of the things I've come across was these structures and trees made from different species of trees woven together. I have found that on a few occasions. It's not common, but I have found it on a few in my research area here down in Virginia. So something is taking the time to create these. What are they? I don't really know. I really don't have no thought on what they are. But they do fascinate me to find these, because to me, that's kind of mind blowing. So, I mean, I'll take pictures and videos the best I can, and I'll share it. I say, look, this is what I found. I don't know what it is, but I don't believe this grew like this, because there was a lot of these miscellaneous trees and branches woven together that came from somewhere different areas, because I look around and I observe the surrounding area. Well, you got a pine limb here. You're surrounded by all hardwoods. Where did the pine limb come from? Just for an example, So, but
well, see, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's the logical assessment of what you're seeing, and then you're looking for any evidences that would tell you it's something other than natural. Your first thought has to be this is a natural occurrence, and then you look at it and try and disprove that it's natural. And if you, like you said, if you're seeing an actual weaving pattern, well, that's not something that can occur naturally. Root balls up in the air, I have yet to come up with a theory of how that could occur naturally, right?
Right.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. So, Brian, when you're talking about evidence, the key thing is looking at exactly what is truly evidence and what isn't. And then if you're talking about collecting evidence, it's also, what are you collecting it for? Are you collecting it for yourself? Well, then you would use a little bit different methodology. It really wouldn't matter a whole lot except for the preservation of what you're trying to keep, right? Or if you're just taking pictures and videos for social media and whatnot. Now, if you're trying to collect evidence for like scientific analysis, that's a whole different ballgame. And you actually need real training to do that properly. And that's one of the problems. I'd hate to say it, but 90% of the people out in the woods trying to collect evidence have no clue how to collect evidence. They might have watched CSI a couple times or read something that somebody posted in a blog, but that's not the same thing as actual training. And I'm sure Grizzly can talk to that with his background in law enforcement. Like there's specific things. A chain of command is a huge one. A chain of possession, right?
Right. Chain of command.
And that's one thing that
Chain of
Bigfooters
custody.
don't. Yeah, that's one of the things Bigfooters don't follow, because to them that has nothing to do with the evidence, and it doesn't have anything to do with the evidence of itself, but the chain of custody. Thank you. It shows who touched it where, so it can be tracked. Without a trackable thing on it, then they can call into question the entire piece of evidence. You know, and so there's a lot of things. So again, Brian, it comes up to what you're collecting, why you're collecting it will really depend on how you go about doing it.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to respond real quick. I think it was Yolanda. Did I say that right?
Yes, Yolanda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was asking about, do they uproot trees and carry them? I believe that's very possible. I mean, bears will push over and uproot trees, but as far as carrying them, though, depending on what they're capable of carrying, I believe that's a good possibility. Why that they would for whatever purpose, but I definitely would not rule that out that they can't. I mean, I believe and feel that they can.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes logical sense. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff.
You know, another thing you brought up was footprints and bear prints and all this kind of stuff. One of the things I always go for, if somebody has a footprint track, there has to be others to make it evident, as far as I'm concerned, right? Because a single track could very easily be a Bigfoot or a bear double step, right? But if you look around, you're going to find other bear sign, right? Bears don't just isolate themselves. You're not going to have just an isolated set of prints, because bears aren't that big. They don't have a 10-foot stride, right? So you're going to find other indications of bear. And if you don't, and that's the only thing you find is that one print, nothing else, anywhere else, then to me, that's not considered good evidence. Because you can't show what it is. You can't put a stride together. You can't there's no trackway involved. There's no way to prove or disprove what that can be. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm a big believer in that. It might be a good thing for you personally to look at, but it's not something that I would sit here and proclaim, to the Bigfooting community. I have evidence, because just one footprint doesn't do it for me. What do you think about that?
Well, you actually made me think of something I witnessed, well, not witnessed, but came across one time. Have you ever seen a set of bear tracks disappear?
Right.
Well, I actually came across that one time, and it made sense to me. It made me realize something that I always actually thought. I was noticing some very large bear tracks, and they were nothing but bear tracks. Front paw, rear paw, and all of a sudden I was like, now keep in mind, let me tell you where this was at. This was in a clearing where there was power lines. The ground was clear. Well, where I was seeing these bear tracks, it came to a dead stop. And then it occurred to me, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm looking around, I see the bear tracks where they stop, and I'm walking around, I'm stepping around, and I was like, oh, it's like soft right here. No wonder why they got left pretty deep. And then all of a sudden they come to a stop, because the ground and the terrain changes. It might be soft in one area, then the firmness picks up here, where it's strong enough to where an impression won't be left.
Sure.
And it made sense to me, because this may not be the logical explanation for what people claim. Now I follow a set of Bigfoot tracks, and they come to it, they disappear, they stop. Well, but in most cases, I believe this is the situation or the scenario where the ground, the terrain changes, the firmness and softness of the ground. It can be soft in one spot, a foot or two over or in front, wherever it becomes solid.
Absolutely.
So those are things I've observed in the field myself, and I made note of that. So it's just something people got to keep that in mind too. And again, it may not be always the case. I don't know. If there's something, if people are following Bigfoot tracks and they disappear and with no trees around, I have no explanation for that. But
right,
I've heard people throw that out there before. I don't.
Well, I mean, I've heard the claim of following a Bigfoot trackway out into a freshly plowed field, and the tracks just stop in the middle of it. But I've never seen evidence. I've never seen anybody actually do a video of it. I haven't seen anything like that. So as far as I know, it's a claim. But I've also heard in the same kind of reports that Bigfoot will backtrack on themselves, for a good distance, and then climb a tree and go a different direction. You know what I mean? So it's there's a lot of mysterious things. There's a lot of mysterious things, but we also, it's like Sherlock Holmes would say, you got to exclude the possible to find out the impossible. And then that's kind of what you have to do. You have to look at all the possible ways this could have occurred. And to do that, you have to have a knowledge base.
Right.
And that's one of the great things I love about how you operate and how you do your research is you focus on being a naturalist for your territory. You know your biome, you know your local flora and fauna, and you research that as part of being a Bigfoot researcher. So that way you know and understand what's happening in the woods when you do come across something wild.
Right.
And a good example of that, a while back, we owned property up in Rogersville, Tennessee. And over the course of about 3 days, all of a sudden we had this line of trees in our yard, in our property, in the woods part, that starting about 4 foot up to about 8 foot up, all the bark and a good part of the tree itself was torn up and chewed up, and you could see the splinters and everything laying on the ground.
Right.
And it was really interesting because there was a line of about 5 or 6 trees in a direct line heading from the back facing the house all the way back up into the ridge line. And at first, the first thought I wanted to go was, man, that was a Bigfoot. Look at this. It's in a straight line and blah, 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 blah. But then I'm going, well, wait a minute. Porcupines can do that. Bears can do that. There's some birds that would do that. So you can't just go ahead and say that was a Bigfoot because it's weird.
Right,
weird is not a qualifying, evidence point.
Yeah, and that's like what I was saying earlier, that you can't rule out your known wildlife when a lot of our known species of wildlife are known for everything that we're giving Bigfoot the credit for.
Yeah.
And Yolanda asked another question. I'm glad she asked this question because the short answer for that is not all of them. And that's a proven fact. I have shown that and demonstrated that by taking pictures and documenting and showing everybody that not every bear track will show claws.
Correct.
Because I've had a lot of people, oh, it's not a bear track, they don't have no claws in it. That don't mean nothing. It don't, because bear tracks, do a Google search. A Google search will show you bear tracks without claws. Look at them. They will show you. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, be careful observing these tracks, because bear tracks will not always display claws.
Yeah.
So, it depends on how they're stepping and what terrain they're stepping in. So most of the bear claws I've seen, very few of the tracks I've ever found had bear claws in them. Most of the claw marks I've ever seen were on trees. So,
yeah.
But,
yep.
Yeah.
Trees or food logs where they're tearing up looking for grubs.
Right. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, keep in mind, not all bear tracks display or show or share claw marks. So absolutely. Yeah.
It's like as a deer hunter, years back when I hunted deer, because that's what you're focused on, every sound you heard was a deer. Every shuffle, every snap was that 30-point buck coming at you, 90% of the time it's a squirrel, hopping across from tree to tree or something stupid like that. But it sounds like the biggest buck you ever heard,
Exactly. And people laugh at me when I say that crap. I've been out there hunting. Yeah, I'll be out there hunting behind my little ground blind, dead quiet, and all of a sudden you hear.
Yeah.
It might be a deer prancing in, whatever. You lean over, look up, see what it is, and you see this big, giant gray fox squirrel hopping around.
Yeah.
So you got to be kidding me. I was like, I should just shoot that just to shut them up.
Right, but that's exactly the same phenomenon of people going out into the woods looking for Bigfoot. What do they say? You're going to find what you're looking for, whether it's there or not. You know what I mean? If you're going through and you're looking for Bigfoot sign, you're going to find Bigfoot sign, even if that's not what it really is.
Yeah. So I was trying to hold back my laugh because I saw the question and the joke on the.
I know, right?
Your deer have money? Just a few bucks. That was pretty good.
Good Lord, Sean.
That's good stuff. Oh,
what was that, Brian? The difference between beer nuts and deer nuts? I don't think I want to know.
We're going in a ditch. But yeah,
have you, Daniel? Have you ever had what we would call a Class A, an actual visual sighting of Bigfoot?
The visual sighting I've ever had, and I'll tell you, happened back in 2014. Now, the bypass a lot of the details that led up to the encounter. I will start back on this. When we first noticed what we saw, there was 6 of us that shared our encounter. And the first thing we saw was this set of eye shine up ahead of us off the side of the road. And the first set of eye shine was kind of sitting kind of low. And I'm not for sure if you know Tracy Arnold or not.
Yep.
Tracy, this was back in 2014, where Tracy was part of the group where we were camping, and we were coming back from the lake that was in the area. And as we were working our way out the forest road to the main forest road from the lake, we were walking in single file line. And it's funny, we just saw a deer. There was a deer walking right towards us. And one thing I always point out, I thought was odd, that it didn't like scurry out of the way. It just was nonchalantly walking towards us. And before it turned off, it was like 10 feet in front of us before it went off into the woods, further into the darkness. And I say further into the darkness because right now at this point it was just after midnight, and we're walking. Okay. We have our headlamps on, and then right after seeing that is when I noticed up ahead on the opposite side of the road. And keep in mind, at first I didn't realize it was a set of eye shine because I was trying to get it in focus. And what I thought it was at first, my very first thought was these little yellow signs in the national forest. Sometimes you find them in random locations. Mm-hmm. And some of them, what they will say on them is no vehicles beyond this point. Well, I'm staring at it, and all of a sudden it did become in focus because it actually blinked. And when I realized it was actually a set of eye shine, because my vision and trying to focus at it, because there's probably about maybe 30 feet up in front of us, and I'm not seeing nothing but eye shine. But yeah, that's when it blinked, when I realized it was eye shine. And they were kind of large looking, but they were bright yellowish eyes. And I believe, whatever the lights were, their eyes were reflecting off of the lights. And then Tracy Arnold, I got his attention. He was the next one right behind me. And I said, Tracy, what the heck is that? This was after I realized it was eyes. And one of the first things I said to Tracy, I said, is that a freaking mountain lion? I don't know why. It was the first thought that popped in my head because it was sitting low,
Sure, like it was crouching.
Right. And it zipped off because it was by a tree. I can make out it was sitting by a tree. And then it zipped off. And Tracy got the rest of the group. He's the guys, get up here. We got some eye shine up here. But we didn't recognize what it was. Now, for the record, the only other animal out in those woods I've ever seen with bright yellow eyes is if you ever see a raccoon. Raccoons have these bright, piercing, yellow-looking eyes. Well, didn't know what the heck we were looking at, but they were large and bright-looking. But we got back up to that spot where we saw that set of eye shine, because Tracy noticed it too, after I pointed it out to him. So we get up there, and all of a sudden we're looking down in there, and behold, we see that set of eye shine again. It's probably set back another between 30 and 40 feet roughly. And this set of eye shine is swaying side to side pretty swiftly. Like, what the heck is this? Even though we're at the edge of the forest road, it did slope down a little bit, then level back out. So we're still looking down at this, and you could tell whatever this was kind of small. I think we estimated that's later on. We estimated whatever it was around the 4 feet mark. You know, it had
Okay.
no taller than 4 feet. And here we are. We're looking at this, which is very bizarre. That it was swaying side to side, and then maybe not even a minute later or so, about 5-6 feet to the right of it, another set of eye shine of the same kind appeared, but this one was a little bit taller, probably by another 2 feet. And this set of eye shine, we couldn't tell of any movement. We noticed it blinked its eyes on occasions. So we're looking at this 4-foot subject. I call him subject because we didn't know. I didn't know. Nobody else knew. We weren't making out no details or nothing. We're just seeing the eye shine, but the small one's still swaying side to side pretty swiftly. Well, we're observing this, and I was like, I'm trying to figure out what the heck are we looking at. I mean, I'm familiar with all the wildlife in this general area. Nothing's ringing a bell. Nothing's coming up in my internal database, you know, in my mind. And then while we're observing the two of these, or whatever these subjects are, I'm scanning the tree line the best I can because it was thick in there. There was a lot of trees. There was some thick bushes at the time. For the record, this was May 3rd of 2014. And all of a sudden, over in the other bushes, some feet away, I noticed another set of eye shine. But this set of eye shine looked like it was literally down on the ground, literally on the ground. And I pointed out, I said, guys, there's another set of eye shine down there. Look, I don't know who else looked, but I think the only person that observed a lot of what I witnessed was Tracy Arnold. And I'm keeping my focus on that other set of eye shine. Because that third set of eye shine, actually, after staring at it, started growing up. I started raising, and it kept raising and raising. I actually call it growing because it kept getting taller and taller and taller. All of a sudden, it come to a dead stop. And over the bushes, here it is, a third set of eye shine with large, bright yellow-looking eyes. This third subject was towering over top of the 6-foot one by another 2 feet. So we're looking at 3 subjects at 3 different height levels. We got a 4-foot one that's still swaying side to side. We got a 6-foot one, still blinking his eyes on occasion, doing nothing more. Now all of a sudden, I noticed this third set of eye shine is very tall. Oh, I mean, from our height where we were standing, I'm 6 foot tall. Keep in mind, it did slope down a little bit, and then level back out. This third set of eye shine looked like it was like eye level with me. You know, keep in mind, I was on the higher ground, and I'm staring at it. Now, Tracy Arnold, he spoke out and said this, and I just couldn't find myself to jump on that just yet. But Tracy was the first one, actually the only one, to say, guys, we got squatches. We got squatches. And a part of me wanted to believe that, but I couldn't jump on that yet. I needed something to confirm because these eye shines at 3 different height levels, I mean, it had me baffled. I didn't know what to think, or I didn't know how to identify what we were looking at. But it wasn't until that tall one actually made a maneuver where it turned to its left and appeared to take a step or two and looked back right at us, blinking his eyes. But in the middle of that maneuver, and I believe it was the proper angle that the light caught it. Now, I've spoken to Tracy since then. He swears he had seen the same thing. But without doubt, clear as could be, these wide, broad shoulders and a big round head sitting on top was clearly made out. That silhouette, that shape was clearly made out. And instantly I was able to rule out, okay, these are not bears. One thing, every black bear in Virginia, or every black bear I've ever seen at night always had red eye shine off a reflection of light. And but I was convinced that bear confirmed it for me. I said, we are looking at squatches. What else would these have been? I mean, I was convinced personally that these were squatches. And after noticing that, the 3 of them, they all appeared to turn off and disappear further into the darkness. And after they disappeared, we took back off a foot to head back towards camp. Now, by the time we get back to camp, we're still talking about it. For the record, none of us were scared. We were actually all excited about this. There was one couple that was with us, Kimmy and Darren. They were down from Vermont. Kimmy was the only one making any comments about how she was scared or nervous. And as we were walking back to camp, yeah, you could hear some limb snap, whatever they might have been stepping on, She's like, guys, she was freaking out. She was like, guys, they're following us. I said, no. I said, they're just working their way back through the woods or whatever, stepping on whatever they step on, I actually, after that whole thing, I mean, I wasn't nervous to begin with, but after we walked off and got a little further away, I did have this feeling like I was like so relaxed. I felt calm. Not that I wasn't already calm. I think there was a little excitement going on here, observing, trying to figure out what we were seeing at first, But here's the kicker. We got back to camp. Again, we were still talking about it. And me and Tracy Arnold, we were the only ones that had backpacks on. But in our backpacks, we both had night vision binoculars. And not once did we ever think about pulling them out to get a better observation. Not once. So yeah, that was it was like I don't even know how to describe that. It was a upsetting disappointment, but yet, like, at the same time, I mean, I kind of laugh and joke about it now because, you hear about so many people seeing something, but they don't have nothing to capture their moment in, you just you get so caught up into it, the thought of doing the right thing doesn't come across your mind, or what you should be doing. So yeah, we went back to actually the next day because we stayed up talking and shooting shit about it for a while, but we went back to that very same location and we actually did a height comparison. A couple of us stayed out by the edge of the road. A couple of us walked down into there, got into the positions where we recall seeing everything. In our height estimation, our height comparison actually matched up with what we estimated, as far as the 4 foot, 6 foot, and 8 foot. Because there was me and trying to remember the other guy's name. He's actually a little taller than me. He lives down in Marion, Virginia, a couple hours or so south of me. And but yeah, we were the tallest ones out of the whole group, and we were there doing the tall, getting right in there. And like I said, we were raising up our hands, and and Tracy is like, "Yep, right there. That's it right there." So everything seemed to match up with what we estimated, on the eye level. We were basing all our heights on the level of the eyes. But yeah, it was an interesting thing, and I'll never forget that little incident. Now there was something that happened a year later when I was by myself. Back during 2015, during the hunt season, in that same particular area, but just around the corner, I was camping over there. And it was probably about 10 o'clock at night. And I was sitting there in my camp. I had a fire going, my shotgun leaning up to the vehicle. For the record, there was nobody else in the surrounding area. The nearest campsite that wasn't that far off, there was nobody there. It was completely empty. There was no other campsites for another half mile or so up the road. Well, while I was sitting there at camp, I'm sitting there, I'm kind of bored, I'm wide awake, I'm not tired. And I decided to grab my spotlight and walk out to the middle of the road in the total darkness. So keep in mind, when I walked out to the road, I did not turn that spotlight on until I got to the middle of that forest road. So, but the first thing I did before turning it on, I don't know, I do this on some occasions, I stop and I listen. I'll kind of look around, and even though I'm not seeing nothing, I look around in total darkness. I do this when I camp by myself. And I've done this with others that come up camping with me. I was like, guys, come on, just stop and listen. Don't turn the lights on. Just listen and just relax. Well, here I am, looking at the tree line. I'm about 20 feet from the edge of the tree line that's out in front of me on the opposite side of the forest road. Over to my left, I pull the trigger on the spotlight. As soon as I hit the tree line, I kicked up a deer. There was a deer somewhere inside that tree line. And you could hear, like, I scared the heck out of it. You could hear it run off. And I said, oh, cool, I kicked up a deer. And so I'm starting to pan my spotlight from my left to my right. And as I get around between the 1 and 2 o'clock position, as soon as I hit right around the 2 o'clock position, something inside that tree line, very large, very heavy, and without doubt was on 2 feet, started walking. every step it took, you could clear it. You could hear it clear as could be, as if it was right next to you. Every step had a crunch and a thump to it, and you could hear. It's like almost like inside my chest. As soon as I heard this, my heart was already raising up to my throat because it had me on edge, and my nerves were going crazy. Like, even though I'm not seeing nothing, I'm hearing this very clearly. Again, something very heavy, and without doubt on 2 feet. It was definitely bipedal. You could hear. Whoosh. I feel stupid trying to demonstrate the sounds of it, but it's like it's like. But yeah, you could hear it snap, whatever it's stepping on, and the crunch and the thump all together. And when I was hearing this, I instantly started walking backwards, looking behind me, make sure I'm going back into my camp. With my opposite hand, I had my keys in my belt loop, make sure my vehicle was unlocked if I had to jump in my vehicle. But I got back into the camp, and all of a sudden, I threw another log or two in the fire, and I sat down, and I instantly got calm. Everything calmed down. Like, I was able to control my breathing, and I got relaxed because I was just playing in my head what just happened. If that was anything that meant any threat or harm to me, it had every opportunity to come probably sack me like a football player, But this was walking away from me. That's what I had to keep. That's what I was thinking about. I said it was walking away from me. Now, one thing I like to point out about this, 2014 and 2015, same general area, just around the corner a little ways. Just prior to having these encounters, there was deer present. And I asked this question. I go back to ask this question because a lot of people believe and say that deer is a food source for squatches. My question to myself is, or anyone, I believe it's a good possibility. Or was it a coincidence that they were there? Or the deer just so happened to be there that close to them? Or did I interrupt a hunt? Were they getting ready to make a kill or snag that deer? I don't know. There's something I look back on because there was deer present prior to having those encounters. So I like to think there was a good possibility that that's probably what might have happened if I didn't interfere.
Sure.
So I don't know. It's something I think about. But again, there was deer present in both situations. So were they hunting or was it just a coincidence they happened to be nearby? So.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought to speculate on, especially with a group of them being right there by the deer. It's very possible they were trying to maneuver and then surround it or whatever technique they were going to use. That makes a lot of sense as a possibility.
Yeah, it's something I think about often. I share that thought with a lot of people. I have no proof that's what they were getting ready to do, but it makes me think of that.
Sure.
So absolutely,
it makes a lot of sense. I know in the oh, go ahead.
No, I was just trying to read what Jimmy put up.
Me too. Yeah. Jimmy, one of the techniques that I know is used by a lot of different squatching groups is to have like a super powerful flashlight, and they'll keep them handy. They won't necessarily use them for shining into the woods, but I've heard of them being able to use that deterrent if one's coming too close, or if you hear something really close and you can shine them in the face. And the going from pitch black, using your eyes in pitch black to having a super bright light is enough to kind of stun them and get them to go away from you. I have heard of that concept before. But again, going back to deer hunting days, we were taught you don't shine your flashlight through the woods because that's going to scare all the deer away in your area anyway. Right. They're gonna know you're there if you're just shining around.
Absolutely. But hey, if you want a really nice, super bright flashlight, that it's a rechargeable one, but the charge will last a long time. And we're talking about 200,000 lumens. It's only about $30. You can get them for $30-$40 on Amazon. I own one, and I read the reviews on it. I checked it out, and I tell you what, I took a chance on it. My buddy David in Virginia, he's a retired law officer. Him and his wife are part of my team. They come out camping and investigating with me. He buys a lot of the same thing. Like, he picks on me about it because he's like, you got to stop sending me stuff because I end up buying it. Every time I show him, look what I'm gonna get. Look, I'm looking at this, blah blah blah. Or I'll show him something. I'm like, he doesn't know. Like I'll order something and I'll show him, hey, check this out. Yeah. So when we get together and we meet up, I'm looking at all his equipment. I said, wait a minute. I'm looking at it. He said, yeah, thanks to you. He said, I can spend all my money buying stuff you show me. He can afford it. He's retired. He's retired to 2 careers. He's retired from the Army, retired from the police department.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he had a career in both. But so yeah, he's he likes to spend money on stuff. He's been building up a lot of. He's working on paranormal equipment too.
Okay.
Next week, yeah, he's going on a paranormal investigation. Him and his wife. They invited me to because he knew I was interested in joining them, and I was like, well, I don't know if I'll be back in time. I'm going to be up here for a little while, so we'll see what happens. But so,
sure.
Yeah, but yeah, the location where he's doing the paranormal investigation, it's got a history. The people that have worked there always reported sharing a lot of wild stuff that happened there, and no other investigation team, no other paranormal team has ever been there. So they got permission to be the first ones there to check it out. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So regardless if they get him, I mean, I know he's got good equipment. So hopefully they capture something. If I don't get to go with them, so we'll see what happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
You got anything new going on in your research or research areas you're checking out new, or anything going on new for you?
Well, as far as we've been doing a lot of investigation, touch-ups in my own research area, there's actually a spot or two that we plan on checking out up here. There's an area not far from where I'm staying that we're going to go investigate. So there's actually other people up here, and I didn't want to announce, let them know I'm up here because everybody, I know a lot of people here in Pennsylvania. If they find out I'm up here, everybody's going to want me or want my attention. So no, sure. I'm only coming up here to, keep things simple, So,
yeah.
But there is one guy. I think he's only about maybe 40 minutes to an hour from here. I might let him know I'm up here because he's been wanting me to come up here. He's been a guest on my podcast, and he's had some Bigfoot sightings and claimed to have seen UFOs very low to the ground out here. So, the certain parts of Pennsylvania up here they're real big on UFO sightings up here. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm up here in Milwaukee, and I've realized that I'm only about 45 minutes away from the Kettle Moraine, so I'm definitely going to be going over there and checking out the Kettle Moraine.
Oh.
I reached out to a local Bigfooter guy, and gave me some spots to check out. He unfortunately won't be able to come with me, because I asked him if he would guide me and meet me out there.
Yeah.
But he says he's got a lot going on in this time of year, and that's understandable. But I'm going to go there and check out the Kettle Moraine and then see what I can find out there.
Right.
Hopefully the audience knows the Kettle Moraine is a big crypto area, not just for Bigfoot, but for Dogman as well. It was one of Linda Godfrey's biggest research areas when she was still with us. So I'm excited to go out there. And then I'm also only about 45 minutes away from the legendary Bray Road.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go out to Bray Road and just get some shots, and not a whole lot exactly new stuff going on there, but it'll just be cool just to go out to where the Beast of Bray Road legend comes from and check that out. So while I'm right here in Milwaukee, I'll be checking that out for sure.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I'm really excited about the Kettle Moraine.
Brian,
the car ferry. Where are you at, Brian?
Dan, yeah, the grandbaby is doing real well. Yeah, I made sure I gave him plenty of hugs before I left out of town. So yeah, because he lives at home with, so.
Jesse, sometime this next coming week. I'm not 100% sure yet. I haven't actually put a date on it yet. But I'm thinking maybe like Monday or Tuesday. I might head out and make a day trip out of it. So, hit me up on Messenger and we'll see what we can do.
Very awesome.
Yep. I know the other day I talked with Dan. Oh, I can never pronounce his last name. Nedrello.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan. He's up in La Crosse, and we're making arrangements for us to meet up at some point. So I'm excited about that. We talked for a little bit, and he's not too far away, but he might meet up with me when I'm a little bit farther north on my journeys up here.
Okay.
But I'm excited about that. Yep, that'll be a good visit.
I tell you, if you ever get the chance next year, if you can plan on it, come on down to South Carolina for the South Carolina Bigfoot Festival. I just got back from there a few days ago.
Yep.
And tell you what, I've been going from year one since they started. It's been going on for about 4 years now. And tell you what, every year it gets bigger and better. And I tell you what, every time I go to, not just that event, but there's a lot of other events too. They're always rewarding to attend these events. As you know, you get to meet so many people.
Oh, yeah.
You get to hear all kinds of interesting stories. I've had people share, every year I go there, I get new stories from somebody new. A lot of them from the surrounding local area. Then I get to hear a lot of people's stories from Georgia, because from where the event is in South Carolina, it's only minutes away from the Georgia line for a lot of these people.
Nice.
So yeah, you got Georgia, and there's a lot of North Carolina people that go there. I've had one lady that sat in on my presentation. She was from Virginia, like 2 hours south of me. There's people that come from all over. Just as they do with my event, but even there, apart from me doing my presentation, I have my booth set up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people come by, they see you're a researcher, you're a blah blah blah. And then they want to start talking to you. They want to open up to you, to share everything they know or what they experience, which I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes up a lot of your time there when you're selling stuff and you're missing out on sales because somebody wants to share a story. But hey, it's all good. I appreciate it though. I really do. So
yep.
But I love hearing.
I was out at the bowling alley with my sister. She was doing something for a school function. And I was sitting there. One of the guys noticed my shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but I got the East Tennessee Bigfoot shirt on from Matt Sieber. And he looks at me and he goes, "Are you into that Squatch stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm kind of into it a little bit."
Yeah.
And then, of course, the first thing he says, "Did you see that video from Colorado going around?"
Oh my!
And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen that a couple times because I've had like friends and family members sending me that video for the past week." And then he goes on, "Well, do you really?" Now, mind you, I'm in the heart of Milwaukee here, and he's going, "Do you really believe in that stuff?" He's like, "I just figure with all the tech they would have found some pictures by now." And I always have the same response to any type of question like that, right? Like how come there's not a body? How come there's not bones? How come there's not good evidence? How come my answer is always the same. I go, how do you know there isn't?
Right, exactly.
How much research have you actually done into it? And he goes, "Well, I just figured if they had it, it would have been released all over the media by now." And I was going, "No, I don't think it's going to work that way."
It's the same thing with the mountain lions.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. That's great.
The whole Appalachian's loaded with them. We may not see the population of them out in public like we do with a bunch of squirrels, but or deer.
Absolutely.
But they're around. They're just one of the.
Absolutely.
They're very elusive and they're smart.
And they're there. They're there. Well, Dan, how can our audience get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you or talk to you or see your events or find out what you got going on?
I'm all over social media. I'm not hard to find. Facebook is my primary location. You can find me just under my name, Daniel Benoit. I do have a public figure page, but I'm more active on my personal public Facebook page. So yeah, you can find me under my name. There is the ECBRO, the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization Facebook group. There is the ECBRO like page. Or if you want to send me an email, ecbro98@gmail.com. You can go check out my YouTube channel. That's another one. I do my podcast there. And if you missed the live stream, I upload to my online radio show, the ECBRO Bigfoot Radio, which most episodes can be found on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Again, that's ECBRO Bigfoot Radio. But yeah, my YouTube channel is called Bigfoot Zone, ECBRO. So, yeah, so that's pretty much about it. You can check out my personal website if you want to learn a little bit more about me. And there's my bio on the first page of the website. Then you can browse through the website. You'll see other things where I've been featured at. There's some of the documentaries I've been featured in and starring in. And the newest one is called The Beast of Elkhorn Lake, which is based off my encounter, which started off on the Paraflix Paranormal Network. For those who are not familiar with that, it's like Netflix, but it's a paranormal network. But if you go to YouTube and go to they have a YouTube channel now where you can actually view and watch that video for yourself. It is under Hometown Haunt series. And again, it's titled The Beast of Elkhorn Lake. It's about an hour-long film where the paranormal team, also the producers of the documentary, come out and do a full investigation with me on that, which I thought turned out to be very well. We picked up some audio. And they've actually had some interesting things happen with their very expensive, fully charged equipment that went dead on them from the start, which was interesting. My buddy Lyle, by the way, they're part of my committee team for my event I put on every year now. Lyle, as soon as we walked down to the spot where everything took place, right in that general area, he had his camera on. There's three of them. All three of them had cameras, so they captured different angles and everything. Well, Lyle, he had everything fully charged before he left the house. When we get there, he's turning on. He says, "Wait a minute, guys. My camera just went dead." He said, "My battery, nothing is turning on." He said, "This was a full battery." He points that out in the video, which I thought was very interesting. Because, I've never had a battery drainage out there whatsoever. So, but it just so happened to happen to him. Which I thought was interesting. So, but yeah, you can watch that on YouTube for free. So you used to have to subscribe to Paraflix. Although they have other shows that they're doing. Because their new show, Hometown Haunts, it's a series. Right now, they're working on season 1. I was the very first one they filmed for their first episode. They investigate other people with other paranormal encounters and activities. They'll end up doing people with UFO and alien encounters, cold cases, files, all that good stuff. So they're gonna keep a good, healthy blend of it all, So
Good.
Yeah.
So I'll put out there too, guys, for everybody. If you ever want to go to an awesome conference, go to one that Daniel's putting on. He puts on great shows. He gets great guests to come out there. And if you ever get a chance to hear Daniel speak, make sure you take it up in that opportunity because he's a wealth of information out there, guys. He's a boots on the ground, no nonsense investigator. And then, like I said, he's one of my go-to guys when it comes to stuff. So if you can track down and hear what he does, check out, definitely do it. Definitely do it.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
And
very
thank
much.
you, sir, for being on the show.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Actually, I'll see you again in a few days, Grizzly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And from coast to coast around the world, we'll catch you on the next show. Everybody, good night.
Thank you,
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.